All right, guys, thank you so much for joining today's episode where I sit down with Shay Flanagan. He is the owner, operator of Oasis Senior Advisors in Central Pennsylvania. And in this conversation, we dive into what do senior advisors actually do, the types of things that they help with, and really some of the challenges that most families with older adults are facing and how they can access the resources that they need and some of the things that these senior advisors do. So it's a really great conversation. Shay's an awesome guy. We dove into his backstory and why it's deeply personal to him and why he's so passionate about helping these families. So we'll see you in the episode. And one last thing, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, it would mean the absolute world to me if you could take 2 seconds and hit that subscribe button. Let's get back to the show. All right, Jay, welcome. I'm super excited to have this conversation. It's kind of funny how we got connected. I know you had done some work with one of my colleagues up there in Pennsylvania, Martin Over, and he said, you know what? You guys need to have a conversation. You guys need to chat. And so we talked maybe a week or two back, and I knew instantly that you were somebody I wanted to have a conversation with on the show because I think you've got a really powerful story, number one. And number two, I think that the information you're going to be able to share today with the seniors, the referral sources, those in the senior care industry, it's going to be really valuable to them just to hear your perspective and how you can help with some of that information. So again, welcome. Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, no, yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. And I'm really honored that Martin reached out to you and had that conversation with you and connected us in the first place. That was really nice of him. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. And where I typically like to start, and I think this is going to kind of frame the conversation, set this up for folks listening. Jay, what is the mission that you're on right now as it pertains to what you do and who you help at Oasis Senior Advisors?
Yeah. So broadly, the mission is to help people. That's what we want to do. But obviously, Oasis Senior Advisors, we focus on seniors and their families and trying to make home safe. So wherever those seniors call home, we want them to be safe. We want them to be healthy and happy, and try to get that quality of life and not just the quantity of life. So we're typically just trying to help people, really, and that's making them safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, for those that are not familiar, what is it that Oasis Senior Advisors actually does, like on a day-to-day basis, like the nitty-gritty details, I suppose?
Yeah. So day to day, I talk to seniors and their families, figure out what's going on in their life, medically, sort of what their challenges are, and then sort of start looking at their options for housing, for home, where they're going to be safe, what services they might need, what agencies we can help them with. Sort of that, just kind of connecting people to the resources is broadly what we do. But we really do focus and specialize in helping find assisted living communities for people that are ready to make that transition. Because sometimes there's just no option to make a home safe. The bathroom on the second floor, the laundry in the basement. Can't go up downstairs. There's not really much you can do there in that situation. So that's where Oasis really prides ourselves that we're in and out of all of these assisted living communities. We know them so well that we can help our clients in a very, very short amount of time, sort of simplify that whole process, because it's a very emotional transition to begin with. So to look at all of the options out there starts to become so overwhelming. So we really want to take some of that stress away from the family in that situation and just help narrow down their search, find a community that fits all of their needs, that's going to be safe and somewhere that they're hopefully going to thrive and enjoy the remainder of their life there. So that's what we really do. We kind of connect people with the services they need, or if they're ready for that transition, we help minimize the stress and streamline the whole process of getting them to a community where they'll thrive and be safe.
Yeah, I love that, and it's such a needed service. I've talked to many folks across various aspects of senior care,
Mhm.
and if you could you maybe add a little color. Like, what is going on with these families? Because I know you've had some like personal experience with this too, but like the emotions, the day to day, like what is happening inside the four walls of these homes of the clients that you work with that have them reach out to you?
Yeah. Wow. That's a, that's a big question. We could probably talk about that for a while,
I'm
honestly.
sure.
Um, so and this is going to be a little bit regional because I am in central Pennsylvania, and our area is just a little bit different from, say, Northern Virginia, metro area near maybe
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, something like that. But what I see a lot of is isolation, social isolation. It's kind of come more prevalent after COVID. There are some seniors that kind of like went into quarantine and then never really came back out. And then in my geographic area here in central Pennsylvania, we have quite a few people. They'll graduate college and then move to Pittsburgh, Philly, out of state to get a higher paying job, maybe a more uh, a different job for a corporation. The job market around here isn't as strong as in the city. So I see a lot of people that are socially isolated because their medical health or issues are keeping them at home. They're socially isolated from their family, who their kids have moved out of state or at least out of the county away
Yeah.
to where they can't show up to all their doctor's appointment, take them to the doctor's appointments. So that kind of plays into a lot of different things. I mean, that brings down the mental health, depression, anxiety, all of that starts playing a role, which also impacts your physical health there too. So that's a big thing, and I think that's kind of more universal across everybody.
Yeah.
But some of the other main issues that I see are, I just call it caregiver burnout, honestly.
Mm.
The worked with a client. He was taking care of his senior father, and him and his wife were living at home. Both had careers, had kids, and it was just too much for them to take care of their dad and themselves and their kids, and they're just getting burnt out. But that there's a lot of pride and love. I mean, it's hard to, whenever you have a family member and you're taking care of them, especially a parent, you feel like you've failed if you can't take care of them. Like you say, oh, this person raised me. They taught me how to go to the bathroom, how to read, how to eat. Like, and now I can't even help them get to the bathroom. Like, I'm failing. And that's not the case. I mean, it takes a whole team of 3 shifts of certified nursing assistants, personal care aides to help take care of these people in assisted living communities. Like, how do you think 1 to 2 people, 1 or 2 adults are going to be able to do that 24 hours a day? It's just physically impossible. And it's again, one of those emotions that come into the decision. It's not a failure on the caregiver or on the family. It's just a huge task. I mean, sometimes you just have to ask for help with some things. I mean, I think I kind of mentioned earlier that I have really bad luck with cars and always have car trouble. So I know there's, like, my mom's car right now, I'm going to take it to the garage because it's that insurmountable task. It's just too much for me to handle. I haven't failed. I did what I could, but now I just need to get that extra help from somebody who knows a little bit more, is a little bit more specialized, and that's what they deal with. And it's very much the same sort of situation with Oasis. These caregivers they're working full-time jobs, maybe multiple jobs, taking care of kids. That's a big task to ask them to also give 24-hour care to to their parents. So it's not a failure. You just have to ask for help sometimes. And I would say those are probably some of the more common things, the social isolation, and then just it's just hard to ask for help sometimes. So I see those very, very often.
Yeah.
And even I wouldn't say universal, like all, but I'd say most families that are taking care of a loved one kind of have some of that emotion about failing if they're asking for help. And it's just not the case because there are so many things. I mean, medically, there's so many things that you have to have a RN to take care of. And like, unless you're an RN, you can't take care of that at home. So I'd say those are probably the two biggest things I see with most clients.
Yeah, you hit on a couple of really important things. One of those being, it sounds like you're talking a lot about the sandwich generation where they have, I've heard it referred to as that before. Maybe you have two, right? Where they've got kids that they're still kind of help raising at home. Yeah, they might be in their 50s or so the individual might be in their 50s or 60s, and they've got their older parents now who are maybe in their 70s or 80s. And so they're trying to help on both fronts. They're also in full-time jobs. So there's just so much that they're trying to do. And what they often feel is they're in this unique scenario where they're having a caregiver on both sides and they're just burning the candle from both ends. And it's very difficult. And the thing that maybe you can touch upon this a bit more is it sounds like it might be a barrier sometimes for people reaching out to folks like yourself sooner, because maybe there's some guilt involved, particularly with that sandwich generation. Yeah, these individuals where they're saying, well, my parents raised me and they did a great job. And, I want to be able to take care of them, but also I've got, there's only so many hours in the day and I can't give them everything that they need, but I'm trying.
Yeah.
Right. And so maybe there's a little bit of guilt and they don't reach out sooner. But I mean, do you see that from time to time where like these folks reach out and they say, I don't know if I'm ready to put mom into a place like that, or I feel like I should be able to take care of them, but I can't. Like, what do you see?
Yeah. That's I've toured with a few clients now that are like kind of iffy, like right on the edge. I'm like, hey, just look out, figure some options out in case something else happens. But they're still, it's hard. And I mean, we're not even talking about the financial aspect of it or anything else yet, which, I mean, the financial burden or the financial costs of personal care, assisted living is pretty huge. So that's a whole nother story there. But they definitely, there is definitely I'd say most people wait a little bit too long and it's hard. I mean, like you said, the guilt, which one of the things I really like about Oasis is that we're completely free service to our clients. So we're paid by the senior living communities that we work with. So that means anybody, no matter their budget, no matter if they're looking to move now, in 10 years, or just kind of want to look at what options are out there in case they do need to move in the future. Like I can help them all. I can talk to them, run them through options, and just talking about it and kind of having this, it's almost the same conversation we're having of saying like, hey, you might feel guilty, but it takes a lot of work, a lot of people to give somebody the care they need, and just trying to work through one step at a time, that little bit of resistance. But being free, being able to talk to anybody about anything, it just kind of helps bring that barrier down some. But I do see it very often. Had few different cases or examples of people waiting just a little bit too long and ended up going into a nursing home, and they couldn't go into assisted living, which we could talk about that, the differences between those two as well. I mean, I can tell you already kind of know. But it's good to go, because the folks listening to this, they are likely to not know all the differences between the two, or the multiple different avenues to go down there. And so I think it'll be good to elaborate on some of those differences, who it's right for. But before we do, I think this will be a good setup for that. Is essentially, when a family calls you in, like, what is the process that you take them through, and what are the considerations that you're looking at to help them solve this problem? Because at the end of the day, you're a problem solver, right? Yeah. You're there to identify what's going on and solve that problem. But what is your process? Yeah. So it's kind of simple, kind of complex. Sounds simple, I guess, but the actual doing of it is complex. So start with just a phone call or a meeting, do a intake consultation, we call it, basically going through figuring out what's going on medically, because that's going to determine, like we were talking about, if they have a higher care need, they might need to go to a nursing home. But if hopefully they don't need a whole lot of help. Maybe a couple, one assist with, or one person assisting with their transferring in and out of bed, something like that. That's good assisted living resident. So we figure out what's going on medically, look at the budget, which we said that's a big one often. Um, Talk about family, where family lives, who's involved in the decision making process, so we can kind of get all sides in there into the decision, so that we can come up with a, hopefully, I mean, we're getting into a little bit of like philosophy or psychology stuff, but the more people you have buying into the decision making process, even if they don't agree with the end decision, hopefully because they were heard throughout the process, they feel better about the decision, even if they don't completely agree with it. So we do a lot of that, figure out the family dynamics, location plays into that, geography. Like I said, Central PA, we're pretty big mountainous area. So location sometime is just, hey, I can't drive over that mountain every week during the winter to see my wife. I want her close. So we're going to have to compromise maybe on price and pay a little bit more in price. So figure that stuff out: medical, budget, location, family, sort of who the person is, like what they like to do, what their career was, were they maybe very involved in their church and they want to go to a faith-based community, different things like that that might help make my choice for recommendations or referrals easier based on what I know about them. And then they would be in a community that like supports their faith, and that might be what makes a difference in the transition. So that consultation, do that like half hour to an hour, depending on the situation. And then from there, I have all the information I need. We have a proprietary software system. I put some information in there. It matches client to community based on what their needs and budget are. Completely unbiased, doesn't take into account my personal preferences of, hey, I like this person or this community, nothing like that. It's just this meets their needs medically, is in a location that works for the family, and meets their budget. And from there, we kind of, if there's too many options on that list, we'll kind of tailor it down a little bit, so we're not touring 10 different communities at once. So we tailor down the list to a short couple communities that are going to be the best fit for our clients, send the referrals, and then from there, we're taking our clients on the tours, sort of turning into the patient advocate, client advocate role, where we're asking some of the difficult questions of the community, saying, hey, maybe look at this last state inspection. You got dinged for not giving somebody insulin on time. Like, what happened there? What have you done? Like, what is the plan of action to fix the deficiency in place? All those types of things that a family might not know to ask or might not feel comfortable asking. So that's basically the process. Sounds a little simple, like I said, but it's a little complex, convoluted whenever it stretches out over months, or you start looking at maybe going to short-term rehab in a nursing home before going to assisted living as well. So we kind of look at, depending on the situation, help guide the family through that full process, including like figuring out which nursing home for rehab they'd want to go to. And then the big one being following or going with them on the tours and being their backup, their guide on the tours to help them get through there.
Now, I mean, with the service being free to the clients, is there any reason why families wouldn't use a senior advisor? Or even, a follow-up to that is, why don't people use senior advisors sometimes?
Well, I have a few different ideas of why. One, I am a stranger to a lot of these people, and I'm asking some personal questions, digging into family history. So there's some people that are a little uncomfortable with that level of, I don't want to say intimacy, but close connection. And they'd rather do it themselves, because like, I frankly, I don't want to put myself out of a job here, but I'm not doing anything that anybody else couldn't do on their own. Like, the families can absolutely do this by themselves. But like you said, if it's free, if I'm helping them, making the process easier, and one of the other things it didn't say, we don't share our clients' contact information with the communities either until our client authorizes us to do so.
Right.
So if they're at the hospital, mom and dad had a fall, and they start calling a few different places, getting some pricing and availability, then for the next couple of days, their phone's going to be ringing with all those communities saying, hey, are you coming for a tour? Are you coming for a tour? Or maybe mom's in the hospital, maybe her health's declining, and maybe she's not going to leave the hospital, and they're getting just bombarded with calls. So we're that middleman there too, to kind of block that noise away from the family. So yeah, that's for being free, making the process a little bit less stressful, and kind of being that middleman, blocking, like I said, blocking that noise. I don't know exactly why anybody wouldn't want to use us, because that's the other thing. Like in my contracts with the communities, they're not allowed to charge my clients anything more than they would charge any other resident moving in.
Right.
So there's,
they can't say, all right, well, because you worked with so-and-so, we're going to have to charge you 1.5x or 2x.
yeah.
It's like, this is the rate for anyone across the board.
Yep, exactly. So they're gonna, if they're moving in, they're going to be paying that community the same amount of money. Why not have somebody help them through the process for free?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I do know it's, like I said, it's a very personal question, so that the privacy aspect can definitely play into it. And then there's so much information available online, and we do have some digital competitors out there. So sometimes it's, depending on the person, they'd rather just go online, look for some information themselves, and then just ignore the phone calls that they get. So there's
they got their Place for Moms and all those, and care.coms, and the ones that are match. I mean, they're not local in market, right? They're just
there are, we do have a few we do have some competitors that run a very similar business model with local advisors in the community, but a lot of our major digital competitors don't have somebody local in the community. So they might be talking on the phone a couple times a month or whatever with them, but I'm in and out of all these communities.
Yeah,
I'm maybe not monthly, because I do cover 7 counties, so it's a little bit hard driving all over the place. But I'm in and out of them enough to know them, and to know the local area, the history, the geography. Like I was saying, like those mountains, like there's some of those mountains that somebody will be like, oh yeah, I can make it back and forth across that. And there's other ones that in the middle of winter, you don't want to drive up and down. So it's, yeah, the local knowledge is very a good good positive for Oasis as well.
Yeah. I'd speculate a large percentage of the people that don't use at least local advisors or somebody like yourself is lack of awareness. And it's just, maybe they didn't know that Oasis existed, or that type of service was out there. And I don't know that I'm making some guesses here, but maybe if they've been going through the process and it's more of a gradual decline of mom and dad, they're trying to figure out what to do. They're researching around. Yeah, maybe they probably have come across things online like, oh, a Place for Mom, oh, Oasis Senior Advisors. Maybe they start doing their research there.
Yeah.
But if there's like a sudden change and now they're trying to figure things out, those are probably some of the more stressful scenarios. And maybe they weren't even in the process of looking for a new environment or a change. And now they're trying to figure it out on their own. And they just didn't know somebody, again, they're forced to make decisions that maybe they weren't ready to.
Yes. Hey, that's, I think that happens quite a bit too. And like what you said about just not knowing what Oasis or senior referral advisors do. In my territory, I started about a year ago now. And for the last year, even some of the senior living communities aren't quite aware of what I do or what Oasis does or what that service, that business model is like, because it just hasn't been in my market, in my area for a while. So, but then again, you look at some place like Pittsburgh, they have like, my colleague down there has, I don't know, like 40 some competitors in person, local people. So like it's a little bit different area to area. But then going back to your point about like that crisis situation, I completely agree with you. And I think those are the ones that one, I think I can help those families the most because, like you said, it is stressful crisis, and if you haven't been thinking about it or looking into options proactively, then it's you got to hurry up and move because you're getting the hospital saying, hey, you're discharging in 2 days and you can't go home. Where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? So those are the families I would love to help the most because I feel like we can give the most value to them. Um, but like you said, if they're not looking proactively and it's waiting till that crisis situation, then it's kind of just luck of the draw. Like who comes up on Google first whenever they search assisted living, or which nurse are they talking to that might know of me and our services? So it's those ones
Well, I
are.
think these conversations are so important though, because when you're out there in the community, I'm sure of it, right? And you're trying to connect with people who might refer you to. You're trying to connect with families themselves. But again, when families are forced to make a decision, like I'll ask you this question: are the ones who rank the highest on Google, are those always the best, the best providers that are going to always have your best interest in mind?
No,
Probably no,
not
right?
necessarily.
We
It's
can't
yeah,
assume that they might, but it's not 100% certainty, especially if it's like one of those more digital ones. And yeah, I'm sure they can be useful in providing information, but will they have the same level of care and attention, relationships in the community that somebody like yourself would have when you're in there every single day? Which is
yeah.
probably not. I don't want to assume 100%, but probably not.
Mhm.
And so when we have these discussions, it allows families, it allows referral sources in your area to get to know Shay a little bit
Yeah,
better, your background, your expertise. So this way, when they're evaluating apples to apples, they're trying to figure out who can help me and my parents the best, or maybe they're searching for themselves. There may be something that you said that really clicked for them. And you're like, I need to reach out to Shay and at least start a relationship.
yeah,
Because I think that's key here, right? Is like, can we do what we can to provide value in our market, but establish relationships, real human to human relationships. With everything being digital, I think we tend to lose a bit of that now. And so I think it's more important now than ever, especially in senior care with what we're doing, is how can we really establish that relationship with the patient, the client, their families, so that there's an element of trust.
yeah,
Because how do they know who to trust?
yeah. No, yeah, I agree. I agree. There's and that's so one of the things I do is I'll offer to go in and do like a home safety assessment. So a little bit about my background. I was in the Army and I was also a security. I worked in bank security doing physical security and fraud investigations, detection, things like that. So I do know pretty good the vaults, the cameras, the locks, the motion sensors, things like that. And then from my time in the Army, I just have a good inspection protocol, I guess you could call it. So I'll go into the home and sort of see like, hey, this light, maybe if we put an LED light in here, get some more light in the hallway, we can not going to be tripping on the rug, or this rug needs to move. And that's just a little thing, like you said, is helping helping the client, which is, like I said, that's our mission, is to help people. But then we're starting to build that relationship, showing them, hey, we are here just to help you. I'm not trying to pull you out of your home or send you off this nursing home or anything like that. I want you to be safe. And this is some of the steps you can take to be safe. And this is how you can live at home longer. And that's, like you said, starting to build that trust, building that relationship. And so that hopefully he can stay home until he wants to move. But if something happens, then I already know him. I know the family. I know the situation. And like you said, we can make a much quicker, better decision in those situations because we have that trust and that relationship already built. But yeah, that's a fun one to try to do too. And it's just like trying to get over some of that resistance. And everybody is different. Everybody has a different reason why they want to do or not want to do whatever it is. And it's just talking to them, building that relationship, getting to know them. And you can kind of say, hey, well, we can't do this, we have to do that, or whatever,
Yeah.
depending on that person and their unique situation.
Yeah, but I think it's this is an imperative message, particularly to the seniors and their families, is when you're evaluating what's going on, I don't think it's better to reach out sooner and say, okay, we're not ready to move yet, even if this might be 5 years down the road. But I went to an event at a moving company, JK. I want to say J.K. Rowling, that's the author, but J.K. Moving up in Northern Virginia, and it was specifically for senior moves, and they had two older folks who had utilized J.K. Moving, but also were talking about their experience in moving into different senior living communities. And the thing that stuck with me that both of them said was that we were happy that we started the process sooner than we really needed to, so that we were the ones making the decision. The ball was in our court, and we weren't forced to make a decision that we really didn't want to have to make. And so they were looking for, okay, where can we age in place? Where are we going to have the best community? These are the things that we like to do. What types of activities are there? And so the things that you intimately about these different facilities and communities that you're a part of, but they went out and did that process on their own, but it's time consuming. But the lesson was that rather than kind of sweeping it under the rug and hoping that this isn't going to become a problem, why don't we address this now and say, okay, maybe it's 3 years, maybe it's 4 years, maybe it's 6 years. I don't know, but at least we're the ones who are in control of the decision. And so I think when folks are working with somebody like yourself, they may not want to, maybe some of the resistance is that if they talk to you, maybe they feel like you're going to force them to move into a place that they're not ready to move into. And I know that's not the case. But I guess what would you say about that in terms of the timing of things and when people should reach out?
Yeah, so more proactive is better. I don't know any situation where being proactive is bad, honestly. So, and like you said, even
almost never works out.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's the economy as a whole, there's mergers, acquisitions, businesses close all the time. So yeah, you come up with a plan now, 5 years, maybe that community changed hands or something and it doesn't work. But like you said, you went through the steps, you had an idea, you at least figured out through that process, probably what was important to you in a community and what wasn't. Was it, maybe you found out you didn't really care for the big shiny chandelier, but you wanted some place that played bingo every day or 4 days a week, something like that. So those are all valuable things to know and help make the eventual decision a little bit easier. But yeah, it doesn't hurt to start looking at the options, even if it's to say, hey, 20 years from now, like maybe it's for me. I guess I'd be a little bit more than 20, probably like 30, 40 years from now, hopefully. I'll say, I'll be like, okay, well, like if inflation and this, like, okay, I might need $8,000 a month, $10,000 a month by that time. And that's what I need to save or make my financial plan to be able to afford care whenever I retire. Like that, I probably want to take a client on tours for that, but it's at least like have a conversation, say, hey, this is what costs are now. They're going to run. And that's pretty valuable for an older client too, as they're looking into maybe a Medicaid plan and putting assets in a trust to protect their assets from all going to the nursing home whenever dad has a stroke and has to stay in the nursing home. Like those conversations with the lawyer have to happen 5 years before you go to a nursing home, and really should probably be doing it a little bit before then. So like that'd be a great time to give me a call, give Oasis a call and say, hey, like we're starting to look into a trust plan or estate planning with our attorney. We're looking at some long-term care in the future. Like, what do we do? And like, I feel like those are the people that rarely ever get into those crisis situations because they've done that proactive planning. They have an idea in place. They're being, most of the time, they're a little bit more proactive with their health. They're not just treating the symptoms. They're trying to maintain a higher quality of health and physical fitness, not bodybuilders or anything like that, but staying active, doing yoga, walking, anything like that.
Pickleball, all the
pickleball, anything. Just being that little bit proactive with your health instead of reactive and just like trying to treat everything as it pops up like whack-a-mole. You're trying to get solve the problems before they even start. And it's the same thing with us. If you can figure out that plan, and all that stress goes away, and that you're worried about the fall or the illness, whatever, in that crisis, but you know you have a plan, you have somebody you build a relationship with and you trust and knows your family, and that I'll be there to help guide you through that whole process. So it's excuse me. That was a little bit of a long-winded thing. One other thing, you were talking about control. As we age, we lose a lot of control, and especially you kind of touched on it, like if you talk about somebody with dementia and like their power of attorney, and they're not making decisions for themselves, and that's a scary thing for a lot of people. Not that we're all control freaks, but whenever you lose control over the decisions in your own life, that's a loss, and it can hurt. So having or trying to keep anything in their control that you can, and that is one way, being proactive and saying, hey, mom has her estate plan, she has her will, and if she has to go to assisted living, this is where the one she likes. If she has to go to nursing home, this is the one she likes. And like that's her decisions. She's in control of those decisions still. And it's not kids 5-10 years down the road trying to figure out what they remember mom saying. It's mom making that decision, in control of her life still. So that's a big one. Any way we can bring that sense of control, a sense of purpose back into the senior's life that's a success. That's a win in my book too. So sorry, I know you touched on control.
No, that was exactly, I'm gonna say what I was looking for, but I think super valuable. And you brought up a few things that I think will lead to some good discussion, but also it probably be more so directing people toward other resources. Because you said things like, estate plan, will, trust, right? I think some people hear those words and maybe they're like, well, I'm not an expert in those things. I don't really know where to start. And so there's maybe a lot of procrastination around it, or they don't want to tackle that because it seems scary. They're like, oh, if I got to get all that stuff, maybe they're looking at this and saying, am I closer to death? Am I closer to the end here if I'm having to plan those things? The answer is no. Because one, no day is guaranteed. None of us know when any of that is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And what I would say is, we have to look at the possible and the actual ramifications of not doing these things. Because it's that, the consequences are the things that can often, and we bring those to life, are the things that will get us to act. Now, even though the will, the trust, the power of attorney, all of those things may seem a little bit scary, a little bit foreign, or just we don't have the knowledge around them, so we don't do anything. What happens is if we do nothing and we pass, now this becomes a major burden on your kids and your family. Mm-hmm. And I've talked to many folks where they've experienced that on the receiving, like their parents passed and there was no plan in place, and they had to go through probate. They had to all of these different things that could have been avoided had they been proactive. And why are they not proactive? Well, sometimes it's lack of education. They don't know what to do. Sometimes it's fear of taking that step. Sometimes finances are involved, and they're like, well, I'm not, how much is it going to cost me? And I don't know if I can do that. So it's multifactorial. Mm-hmm. All that to say, really think through what would be the end result of me not addressing this? And is that what I want to have happen to my family? It's the same reason people don't get life insurance.
Yeah. I'm not planning on dying anytime soon. I don't need it. Yeah. No, and it's the same thing. Long-term care insurance, like it's basically unaffordable after you hit like 60, I think. But most people don't even really think about those things until they're late 50s or 60s, and they start thinking about retirement, and then after retirement, or after retirement, I guess, is most of the time. Yeah. But being proactive, and again, that education. And I think I actually work with an elder law attorney that does a couple free seminars a month and just talks for like an hour and a half. And this is like the whole process that he goes through, and like how you can and can't do these things. And I think education is a huge barrier. to many different things. I mean, health illiteracy, like financial literacy, like it's all they're so our complex, our systems are also complex now that you need a specialist to figure out almost everything. And
Right.
it's just trying to get people educated and talking to the right people to figure out those plans.
Yeah.
But one of the things you brought up, so the cost of not acting, and that's a difficult conversation I've had with a few clients in saying, hey, mom is living at home. Maybe you have a neighbor checking in once or twice a day or a couple days a week, but she's had 3 falls in the last 4 months. Like, what's going to happen the next time? Like, how long will she lay on the floor until somebody checks on her? Like, if they check on her, are they going to come inside, or are they just knocking on the door and oh, she didn't answer? Like, what's the cost of not having that care or that 24/7 support or response to be able to help her up off the floor if she falls? Like, that's a difficult conversation. That's something you don't really want to think about, but that's exactly what you're talking about, the cost of not doing anything. And we can talk about different options, home care, home health, like assisted living, personal care, independent living. But if you don't take any actions and somebody's not getting the care they need, they're not safe and something else is going to happen to them. And those are, unfortunately, I think those are the people that have the major falls, have the strokes, have something happen, and they end up in a nursing home. And then we're talking, like you're saying, they didn't plan for the nursing home, so they don't have a trust, they don't have any estate plan in place. So the nursing home's selling their house, their kids aren't getting anything, everybody's upset, like nobody's happy in that situation, and like they're still in a nursing home and like not doing well.
Right.
So
And there's
like,
still the very real pain and reality of mom being in a nursing home.
yeah. So it's tough. Yeah, if we could be very proactive and like get everybody starting to think about it in their like 60s before they retire, like that'd be great. But we're probably a long way from there.
I can't believe this you've been in this business for like a little over a year. It seems like you've been doing this for like decades. And so it's like a major compliment, but it's earned because I can tell that you really care about what you do. You're professional in everything that you're doing. But what I'm curious about, because I know you have a bit of an interesting backstory. It's not like you haven't been in senior care for your entire life, but like, why this industry? Why'd you get into this in the first place?
Yeah, so that's a big question. So the short answer, or I'll do it this way. So about 2 years ago, I was working and looking for a different job, had some IT certifications, was looking to do something remote, updated my LinkedIn, and a guy messaged me on there and he's like, hey, you ever thought about owning your own business? And I was like, well, yeah. The job I was in there, my girlfriend and I were talking about buying in and taking that business. It was her family's business. I wanted a management degree. So I was like, yeah, I want to own my own business. He's like, how about a franchise? I'm like, not McDonald's, no way. He's like, well, wait a second. So he started looking at a couple different options, and Oasis was one of them. And right about that time, my grandmother had been in independent living for about 2.5, 3 years. She had some health problems, had a fall, went to rehab in a nursing home, came back to independent living, had another fall, back to rehab. And then we're like, okay, it's time for assisted living. So my mom and her brother and sister were ones trying to figure it all out. Well, my mom lived here locally with my my aunt and uncle lived out of state, Ohio, Tennessee. So she was, we're central PA. We're not a lot of people, not a lot of communities. So there was only like 2 choices, and it was still a struggle. It was stressful. It was trying to coordinate with the nursing home, with the communities, with my gram, getting her input, figuring us all out, the process. And so I'm talking to this guy, and right as my mom's trying to get my gram moved into assisted living, my gram didn't really like it. And I was like, like, so this is Oasis. So like, you just help with people like this. And he's like, yeah. So I was like, okay, well, let's look into it. Like I wanted to help people. I wanted to feel good about what I do every day. And I saw the need firsthand. Like my family was just going through it right then. And I was like, wow, there's no one in this area doing this. We have a very large senior population in central Pennsylvania. I'm like, this is a great opportunity to be able to help a lot of people. And so then my grandma ended up, she wasn't very happy in assisted living, kind of turned around after a while, but she ended up passing away beginning of last summer, unfortunately. And this was, I don't know, a lot of emotions there, but I had made the decision for Oasis, and was just getting started with training last fall. And my dad was, he had leukemia a few years ago, gone through chemo, and then had some skin cancer coming back, and went through surgery last summer, chemo, radiation again. As I'm going through Oasis training, actually about 365 days ago on the dot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. So I started, my first day was November 1st, 2024. And 9 days after that, my dad passed away. He had gone through chemo, or had one chemo treatment left, had just finished his last radiation treatment. The surgery ended up being more invasive. It was on his neck, and just on and off the vent 2 or 3 times over the last couple of days. And it was just, it wasn't the quality of life he wanted. I mean, it wasn't good. But here I was, like 2 weeks out of training with Oasis, like just getting my feet wet. And like, that's a situation that I'm supposed to be helping people in. And I'm standing there in the ICU in Pittsburgh, and like, my mind is just blank. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I call my now mentor colleague in Pittsburgh and say, hey, like, what do we do? Like, I'm lost. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, what's going on? We're talking like LTACs and sniffs and rehabs. And I'm like barely fresh out of training. Like I said, and I'm like, what's an LTAC even mean? Like, I don't even understand. So that was what made me realize, like, I made the right choice. I was in the right thing. Like, I saw firsthand the struggle of just trying to find a community and figure out the process. And then I felt very firsthand the struggle of being in the ICU in the hospital with a loved one that you didn't expect to be there. We expected them to be in an RV going out west with my mom this summer, like, so there's that, all those emotions coming up. And I was like, wow, I thought I knew what to do, and I had to call somebody else for help. And I'm like, this is the right thing for me. I want to be that person for those families, like my family had, and to be able to help them through that situation. So that's kind of, I guess it turned into a longer story than a short one, but kind of why I'm doing and still doing what I'm doing. Because I mean, it was, death in the family is always tough to get over. Starting a business is always tough, and then combining the two of them made it not impossible, because I'm still here, still alive. But it was definitely a challenge, and I have to kind of remind myself of that every few days, honestly, of, hey, it might be tough, but there's a reason I'm doing this, and there's a reason why I want to help, and it's because those families are in even tougher situations without any help. So it's a bit of a challenge some days, but it's very, very rewarding in being able to help people.
Shay, I appreciate you sharing that story and opening up about it. It can't be easy to sit on here, talking to somebody you just met, a couple of weeks ago, and and talking about deeply personal things like this. But I think that there's a lot of value in that, because what I see is you have perspective, right? You have gone through the exact scenarios, that many of your clients have gone through, and to have lived in their shoes, experienced the emotions, and to realize, wait, I've trained for this, and yet my mind is still blank.
Yeah.
Because of
just what a whirlwind that is and everything that's going on.
Mm.
And so to be able to work with somebody who really understands that, I think is paramount, because yes, we all go through our own trials and tribulations, and there's always going to be something that people experience. But when you can connect, your purpose with work to, you're showing up there every day, understanding what your clients are experiencing, living, I think it puts you in a very unique position to help them and understand them and guide them through this process in an extremely valuable way. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's helpful for people to hear it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of self-therapeutic too, talking about it. I mean, yeah, I mean, we talked before, like asking for help. And that was one of the things I didn't really ask for help on. You bottle all the emotions up and just keep pushing forward. And it kind of took me looking at myself for a little bit and saying, I'm asking other people to reach out for me for help, but I'm not even reaching out for help myself. Then it was discongruity, whatever, incongruity there. And I needed to be able to help myself to help others as well. So yeah, but
I think it's hard for men to, I know I've struggled with that. I think most men struggle to ask for help. Yeah. And, where I'm not young anymore, I'm approaching 40, and, I start to, and as I have these conversations with older folks, they're in their 60s, they're in their 80s, they're in their 90s. I think largely as men, and I heard somebody say this the other day. It was actually a scene from Saving Private Ryan. And when I watched it, I nearly broke down. I was like, oh my goodness. And I'm trying to figure out why myself and why men, why do we push so hard? Why are we constantly trying to get better, to improve for our family, for our kids, for ourselves, to make an impact, to make more money, so we can impact more people? It's like all of these things. But when they distilled it down, at the end of our lives, ultimately the question we're trying to answer, the two questions is, was I a good man? Did I lead a good life? And I heard that, and I was like, damn, that's it.
Yeah.
And because it's like, that is the North Star. And I found it so profound, yet so simple at the same time, because I think largely that's what we're trying to do with the work that we're doing, with the way that we're leading our lives. And I know it's true for me. I know it's true for a lot of the men that I talk to. And it sounds like, you're highly driven to impact a lot of people. And you could have done anything. You can open a Chick-fil-A franchise, right? You could have done anything. Yet you're here working with seniors to guide them through this process, because you know how impactful that it can be.
Yeah.
And so the question I have, as we're wrapping up on time here, I want to make sure that we can get out there and do the thing that we're supposed to be helping people with. Yeah. And we could probably talk for hours. But I guess, what advice would you give to families right now if they're considering, maybe there's been some changes with mom or dad and they're not sure, maybe they should reach out, maybe not? What advice do you have for them?
It never hurts to have a free conversation. I've had conversations like half hour, just last week, a half hour with a client's son, and I didn't really think I gave him that much information or anything that useful. And he's like, "Oh, you've been so helpful. I can't believe how helpful you've been." I'm like, "This has been 25 minutes. I didn't think, how could I have helped you that much?" But honestly, that's sometimes what it is. Just a 20, 25 minute conversation to say, "Hey, this is what's going on. These are some of your options you might have. And this is how you might be able to get some help, so that you're not worried about this every day, or you're not wondering what might happen next." It doesn't hurt to have a phone call. And it's always just kind of one foot in front of the other. Little steps at first might make, you never know where you might turn up. I know all roads lead to Rome, but you got to start walking there to get there. It's just one foot in front of the other. One phone call, one little conversation might be all it takes to ease some of that stress, that worry that mom might not be okay tonight, that I'm texting mom in the morning and not really sure if she's going to be there, but now I feel safe. I feel comfortable that she's being taken care of. just takes asking for help, takes that phone call, just saying, hey, what options do we have? And so that'd be my advice. Is it's a little tough to ask for help sometimes, but that's if you're worried, if you're concerned about your loved one's health, it's a good time to reach out and sort of look at what options you have to help them. Because I mean, I feel like a broken record, but like if you don't have the help you need at home to be safe, something is going to happen. It's probably more likely just a matter of when and how bad. So it's just ask for some help and we'll be there. Yeah.
No, I love that. And Shay, thank you so much for being generous with your time and your knowledge and your expertise. I think it's been extremely valuable. Now, if folks so you're in central Pennsylvania?
Yeah. Like actual central, not Harrisburg Central.
Right.
So Altoona, Johnstown area, Cambria, Blair, Clearfield, Huntington counties. Yeah.
Okay. So folks are looking to get in touch with you, maybe have that initial conversation, maybe ask for some help. Where do you want them to go? How do you want them to connect with you? What should they do?
Yeah. So a good first bet is oasissenior.advisors.com. We have a little tool on there. You can put in your zip code and it'll take you to the closest local advisor to you. If you are in central Pennsylvania, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you want me, can I just say my phone number right now?
It's up to you. What I'll do is, I'll link all of these resources for people in the show notes so they can easily find the website. They can find you on social media as well. And if you want to share your phone number, that's fine. I'll also link it down in the show notes so people can find you, but that's totally up to you.
Yeah. No, okay. Yeah. So 814-660-3519. Call, text, and I'll get back to you. Don't send any protected private health information, PHI. The texting isn't HIPAA compliant, but we'll just get in touch with me, give me a phone call, shoot me a message, and love to have that conversation, see how I can help. Absolutely.
Amazing. All right. Well, Shay, thank you again. And I look forward to, I really hope folks take your advice here and reach out to you and connect, because as Shay is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the different options available for seniors and their families, at any phase. So guys, we'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.